But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roger, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Well, good evening, and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we get weird, per usual. We did 2 shows in a row with the little people, and James reminded me to be careful of doing a 3rd show in a row, lest we invoke their wrath of the gremlins. And the gremlins have been really wreaking havoc on the tech here, but luckily I got home a little bit early tonight, was able to go through all the paces, and hopefully, cross your fingers, everything's going to be working tonight. Yeah, we've had a rough run with technology. Anyway, we're limping through it. Hope everybody's well tonight. We're going to start with, so you know me, weird ideas really is what this is all about. Digging into history, looking at different ways to not just interpret things, but maybe reimagining some of the things that we may have missed. Now, that's very much ancient astronaut theory, right? Except not directly everything's aliens, right? And it's not always aliens. But in this case, digging deep into the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans and some of the temples that they created, I was lucky enough to find this amazing, absolutely amazing little thing known as what is this called? The Psychomanteum. Yeah, links are in the description if you want to check it out. Please do. And as always, look, fact check me, follow up on this stuff, and make sure that I'm not too far off the beaten path. I mean, that's where this show lives, basically. However, I just don't want to be completely making stuff up, okay? So as we start now, like I said, I was just digging into some history here, looking for something interesting that we hadn't talked about. Like I said, years and years and years of this show, it feels like we've covered everything, but we haven't. There's still tons of amazing things to talk about in this wide and mysterious world. So let's do it. Let's begin. And so the write-up is very good tonight. If you want to read that, I would recommend it. The Troubled Minds newsletter that has the entire thing, lays it out from top to bottom. And it is a narrative. It is one of those things that's it's good. It's also, maybe not the best if you're not into reading or whatever. But you're in luck, because instead we're going to do it this way. So I'll start it just like this. Now, the Psychomanteum is a room. It's small. It is dark. There's a chair, and across from the chair, there's a mirror. But the mirror is angled so that it reflects nothing. And this is that ancient Greek thing. So hang tight. I'll explain. No face, no wall, no light, just darkness in this room, this chamber. Behind the chair, there is a single lamp, dim enough that it barely registers, positioned so that its glow never reaches the glass. The mirror shows only void, an infinite pool of nothing. That's it. That's the entire setup. A chair, a mirror, a lamp, and the dark. No priest, no seance, no candles arranged in a circle. No incantations, no Ouija board, just a room built to a very specific geometry. And when people sit in that room and stare into that mirror long enough, something happens. Something that nobody can fully explain. And there's an individual by the name of Raymond. I was reading up on this guy, and it's fascinating as hell. Raymond Moody. Okay, we'll get to that momentarily, actually right now. In 1990, a 44-year-old nurse sat down in one of these rooms, recreated by this Raymond Moody guy. Her husband had died 2 years earlier, and she wanted to see him again. She had spent hours beforehand with a psychiatrist talking about her husband, looking at old photographs, pulling every memory she could find to the surface. She was ready. If this worked, she was going to bring him through. She was going to summon him somehow. And so she sat in the dark. She looked into this mirror. And someone came. But it was not her husband. Her father stepped out of the mirror. Not as a vague shape, not as a feeling or a whisper. He appeared and he spoke to her. She had not been thinking about her father. She had not prepared for him. She did not ask for him. But he showed up anyway. Now think about what that means. If the mirror just shows you what you want to see, she should have seen her husband. If the whole thing is wish fulfillment projected onto darkness, the wish should have been fulfilled. But the wrong person answered. And that keeps happening. The psychiatrist who built the room, a man named Raymond Moody, as I suggested, had already spent decades studying near-death experiences. He tried it himself. He went in wanting to contact his maternal grandmother, the woman he loved, the woman he had prepared for. And instead, his paternal grandmother appeared, a woman he had barely spoken to, a woman he had a difficult relationship with his entire life. He says the encounter healed something between them that decades of living never could. The dead, it turns out, do not take requests. They send who they send. And whatever is choosing, it is not the person in the chair. That room has a name, and it's called a Psychomanteum. And all the literature, like I said, is down below. I recommend you read it because this is super cool. And tonight, I'm going to tell you that Raymond Moody did not invent it. He basically reverse engineered it, because the original version of that room was built more than 2,000 years ago in a temple at the edge of the Greek underworld, at the exact spot where the River of Woe, the River of Fire, and the River of Wailing converge. The ancient Greeks did not stumble onto this. They engineered it. They built a multi-day protocol involving fasting, narcotic compounds, sensory deprivation, hallucinogenic smoke, and a giant bronze cauldron polished to a mirror finish. And they used it to talk to the dead on an industrial scale for centuries. And here's the part that should keep you up tonight. Every civilization on Earth independently, with no contact between them, which is a recurring theme about many of the things we talk about, built some version of this machine, the scrying mirror. The Aztecs, of course, used obsidian. We've talked about this in the past quite a lot. The Siberians used polished metal. The Africans used dark water. Different cultures, different centuries, different continents, same technology, the same door. The question is not whether the room itself works. Over half of Moody's 300 subjects reported contact. The question is what it means that every civilization found inside the door. And something on the other side keeps answering. And what the hell does it mean? And that's where we start. Like I said, this is one I'd never heard of, the Psychomanteum. And it does go back thousands of years. we'll get into this. And so as we start, look, a lot of ways to look at this as usual, and all the disclaimers do apply. I'm more of a folklorist than anything these days. And the things I think about and the things I talk about are very Dungeons and Dragons, okay? So there is no truth to be found here. I'm not making claims of anything. I'm not suggesting I know anything you don't. I'm just here to talk to amazing people about extraordinary things. That's it. No truth. Just a conversation, just ideas, just a little bit of history, a little bit of troubled minds sprinkled in, and that's where we're at. For the moment, we're going to take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor. In that case, that would be Human Inspiration. Oh my gosh, I think I cleaned up my MIDI triggers. Pray for me. Be right back. More Troubled Minds in exactly 1 minute. See you on the other side of the break. We got James coming up. We are taking your calls tonight. And be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way.
In a world increasingly shaped by AI, Human Inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable.
So here I sit, locked in my room again.
Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support Human Inspiration. Available now on iTunes.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Again, sound check. I hope everybody can hear me in all the places. Like I said, I spent a bunch of time figuring it all out this afternoon, but things may have broken since, because that's just the way things work sometimes. Okay, so now the interesting part, what fascinating, wild, unbelievable part about this hinges on the fact that human souls exist, or that we sort of, when we pass, we move into a greater conscious field, consciousness itself as being primary, okay, and then can communicate back somehow. Now, so the first question we start with tonight is very simple. Do you think there is a human soul? Do you think it exists in the ways, the old ways, as described? Or do you think it's more quantum, OR, quantum consciousness? I don't know. And as usual, like I said, no answers, just more questions as part of these conversations. But the other kind of wild part about this is, if this is just a trick of the mind, this whole setup, this ancient Greek setup that was replicated by this individual, again, by the name of Raymond Moody in the 90s, if this is just a trick of the mind, then you would expect to prep yourself for your husband and have your late husband come back. But he doesn't. He didn't. It was many times somebody else entirely, almost as if the messenger they send, or that gets sent from the consciousness field or the spirit realm, or however you want to define that, is determined some other way. And what the hell does that mean? Yeah, that's where my mind is at. If you want to be part of the conversation tonight, you know what to do. You can jump on the Discord, troubledminds.org, click the Discord link, or of course, give us a call at 702-857-6939. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's go to James in Michigan. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Thanks for being patient. Welcome to the joint.
I'm glad to be here, especially for this topic. It's really amazing. The whole thing with reflective surfaces, it comes back over and over again in anomalous phenomenon. And so when I found out about this being the topic, I had to join, because I found more than a few accounts of some weird things happening with mirrors and windows and screens, modern TV screens happening. So yeah, glad to be here, and I'm happy to sit in as well, as usual, if that's okay. So
yeah, I'd love to have you.
Yep.
Appreciate that very much. Okay, adjusting the volume. Let me know if the volume's good out there, guys. Trying to do this on the fly, so apologize if there was a spike there. Okay, now the wild part about this is I'm not gonna tell this story because this is way too fresh for me. But I had a situation happen last week that was very, a mirror, a light. I was sleeping. It was a dream. It was weird. It was so, like I said, too fresh to share for the evening. But next, in the next 6 months, somebody remind me about my mirror incident and a nightmare, and we'll circle back to that. But I mean, as usual, the scrying of the mirror, not just a black mirror of obsidian and the water as was described in the write up there in the beginning. Look, I don't know. There's a ton of ways to look at this, and that mirror realm as part of that larger maybe consciousness aspect or spirits or whatever. I know you got a lot of insight into this, James. You've again, the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds, Salcedo Paranormal, all the great stuff. Go check out his podcast, salcedoparanormal.com. But tons of stuff in mirrors. And so what is your take here? You've got a ton of data. You've kind of been filtering through these stories and these ideas. What is your take on this? And if we recognize this in the ancient ways, do you think we'll maybe stumble upon something scientifically in the coming days and years? Take it wherever you like.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, again, as science sort of figures out or discovers more and more things about what we call paranormal now, maybe figures them out, maybe not, at least finds out that there are weird things going on out there that others have known about for a long time. It wouldn't surprise me if they do sort of start to realize. I'm sure there's probably some people are out there that are in the scientific world that already are aware of this from people they know that have had experiences. But yeah, the really fascinating thing about this to me is that whole study with Raymond Moody and the way that nurse was expecting one person and got another. I've heard of that through mediums to people go to make contact with loved ones, and they go there hoping to make contact with one person, and sometimes it happens, but other times it doesn't, and different people show up that the person is not expecting. And so this is something that again, that's just through shows I've heard over the years and things I've read, but that seems to support, or at least be similar to, what was found in that study, especially in that case of that nurse, and even with Raymond Moody himself, being contacted by someone else that he hadn't planned on making contact with. And I don't know if it's some larger force that decides who can or can't show up, or if it's the individuals themselves. Of course, I have no idea, but it is common for, it's that old, idea of trying to make contact in a lot of cases with the other side, whatever that may be. You can do it, but you never know, in most cases, who you're going to make contact with, or who's going to decide to contact you. It's sort of just putting out a call, and you may try to be specific, but so often it seems like just making that call, it goes out to anyone and everyone, and so you never know who's going to answer.
Yeah, which is the weird part. One of many weird parts here, and we've talked about this in the past quite a lot. The idea that when you reach out through a spirit board or something to this effect, and let's say, and again, you make contact, and once again, to have the conversation, you don't have to believe any of this stuff is real. Like I said, we kind of talk about this in the gamut of the mind's eye, from the materialist aspect of, this is all nonsense, Mike. Cool. Well, let's talk about instead the historical aspect and why we keep chasing these same ideas. Again, disparate areas, not just throughout time, but geographically as well. But the other part is, once again, to the religious space, the idea that we have the eternal soul and the rest of this, it does make a ton of sense of maybe there are rules. And we've talked about metaphysical rules and some other weird stuff in the past, kind of putting some stuff together, trying to sniff out what this actually means. But maybe there are only certain times, or that a particular entity can come through, or in this case, talking about this Psychomanteum, and again, Raymond Moody, that maybe by preparing for
the individuals, you're creating some kind of psychic block, as James is describing, something like that, right? So look, I don't know. And that's the weird part of this. And, far be it for me, like I could just shrug my shoulders and go, whatever, none of this is real. Fine. But it doesn't change the fact that these people had these experiences, and there's a neuropsychological aspect to it as well. So, I mean, so many ways to look at this. But do you think that's the case, James, in some capacity, that preparing to, cross over or have somebody cross over to you, calling them directly might actually instead create a block? I mean, that seems like maybe that's written into some larger metaphysical law of the universe.
That is definitely one possibility. I think something else, if we're considering sort of all the possibilities here, if, let's say, reincarnation is real in any way, then maybe when you try to contact someone, if they've already sort of transitioned into a new physical form, there is no way to contact them. And so maybe someone else is sent in that case as well, possibly. Or someone else responds to try to fill in or whatever the case may be, because the person that you're trying to reach literally can't be reached in that way. You'd have to go and find them in the physical form, which, you would have no idea of where to start. So yeah, all these, there's just reports of so many similar cases. The screens themselves, the reflective surfaces to me are fascinating, because again, like you said, I've found different posts from people over the years, and it's just, people see shadow figures in mirrors. People see figures of light in mirrors, faces as well sometimes. I've even found a couple of cases here and there where people have claimed to see other places in mirrors, or different versions of their own, the actual room as it is. But it's the furniture or the walls look different. So there's something about that whole reflective surface and anomalous things that happen in and around that surface that I think there's probably more than one explanation for, which is probably why it's so hard to figure out what is going on.
Yeah, and why, to me, this type of stuff is so fascinating, because, like I said, it seems as if there is some sort of universal law in place that we've been following all along, that metaphysical aspect. But what are they? What are those rules? We've talked about it in terms of Stranger Things and, of course, fiction. And fiction mirrors a lot of the mythology, mythology and folklore of old. So, which is our modern mind experiencing the world we live in, and the social circles and all the things without modern distractions. So I do wonder, as usual, if there's going to be something we find with the mirror, and I don't know, maybe just maybe this is stranger than we ever dreamed. Fire stuff, James. Got about a minute left if you got anything else.
Well, just in regards to the different things people see, one of my favorite things posts I ever found from a person, is about the TV show on their TV with it was a boyfriend or girlfriend, husband, wife. I can't remember what it was now exactly. But this couple were sitting on this couch, and they had just turned the TV off. And usually you would think you would see your own reflection in the TV. The couple would see themselves sitting in their living room. Well, no, they saw a shadowy figure sitting on the couch where they were sitting. And in the reflection on the TV, the curtains that were on the window behind them were open, whereas in the real world, physical world, this world, they were closed. So how does that work? Again,
having some internet troubles here. I'm not sure if it's me or you. You just dropped off there, but your timing is perfect and spot on as usual. So I'm sure you just ended. We're here with James Salcedo tonight, of course, the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. We're talking this Psychomanteum. I'm calling it a temple of engineered dread. And I'll read a little bit more about this because there's a ton of fascinating links down below. Like I said, I do encourage you to read them because, like I said, hearing me ramble about it poorly is one thing, but kind of reading into some of this stuff and learning what they were actually doing in the days of yore with spirits and contact and these mirrors and these little temples they built.
I don't know. It makes me wonder what the hell's actually going on. Love to hear your thoughts. If you want to be part of the conversation, give us a call at 702-857-6939, or you can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. What do you know about this? Once again, is the human soul real? How about this? Have you ever seen something in a mirror that wasn't actually there? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. A lot of ways to think about this, and et cetera, so on. Don't go anywhere. More when we return. Be right back. No problem, James.
You're tuning into Troubled Minds, the show where mystery knows no bounds. Stay tuned for revelations that'll keep you questioning the fabric of reality.
Welcome to the Psychomanteum, temple of engineered dread. Every shadow knows your secrets. Every silence fills with dead. You built this hall of haunted angles. Now the angles tilt your head. Welcome to the Psychomanteum, a temple of engineered dread. Shattered, so you never face the doorway. Clock tapes so time can look you in the eye. Compensate, you swear you haven't bitten your tongue. Something laughs in the spaces where your name should be. You blink, the mirror blinks a heartbeat late. You speak, your voice comes back. Welcome to the Psychomanteum, temple of engineered dread. Every shadow knows your secrets. Every silence fills with dead. You are the one.
Anybody like heavy metal? I was listening to a few different songs, and there were some really good ones tonight. And by the time that the chorus hit the second time, I'm like, this is it. This is the one. I knew it. I was thinking of Matt Sal too. I'm like, this one's for Matt Sal. Crank it up. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. What's up? Eli got first over there on YouTube. What's going on, Ioxy? What's up, Stream Jesus? Mentioning Frank again. What's going on, Fred? I see you there. Parker, dipping for a bit. Got a new job. Congratulations on that. And yeah, looking forward to when you get back to making some stuff over there on your YouTube channel. What's up? Hope everybody's well tonight. We got Puff over there on Rumble, and yeah, the Skeleton Crew otherwise. What's up, Kelly? What's up, Matt Sal? I see you guys in the chat. Hope everybody's well tonight. And Satya, and yeah, what's up, Matt Sal, Herschel, Apoc, Joe, Satya, Lily, Joey, and Flip Dizzy on Discord. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening now. Well, let's do it. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking about this Psychomanteum thing. Now, here's the deal. The ancient Greeks built rooms specifically designed to talk to the dead. Not temples. Dark chambers with bronze mirrors where pilgrims sat after days of fasting, drugs, and sensory deprivation until the dead appeared in the reflection. In the 1990s, a psychiatrist rebuilt one in a walk-in closet. No drugs, no ritual, just a mirror and darkness. Over half his subjects reported contact. But the dead don't take requests. They send who they send. Which is, once again, the fascinating and bizarre part of this is that you can prepare for contact in this degree for a particular entity and somebody else comes through. And even for, like I said, if this is a trick of the mind, fine, that's okay. But still, if you prepare for one entity, even if you're tricking yourself and somebody else arrives, it's almost as if there is some rule in place that disallows this. And that's the thing that's on my mind tonight. We'll get more into this and sort of the ritual aspect of it. And the Psychomanteum itself goes back to this. It's actually called the Necromanteion of Acheron. And I'll read some of the stuff because it's highly fascinating. And there's some shenanigans with it, as you would expect, right? When you go this far back and look at some of these larger concepts in the metaphysical space, there's going to be some shenanigans, especially when we're talking anthropology, archaeology, mythology, folklore, all that stuff. So yeah, so I'll read some of this as we go. Love to hear your thoughts, though. As usual, this is a conversation amongst regular people talking about extraordinary things. If you want to be part of the conversation, one more time, 702-857-6939, click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Welcome back, James. Yeah, you just cut out at the very end there. I know you were done because your radio timing is perfect. So I know you cut out just as you finished, but welcome back. I know you rebooted the Discord and came back and everything. It sounded just like an internet hiccup. So don't even trip. If you're there, welcome back. How you doing, my man? And what's on your mind?
I'm here, and hopefully it doesn't do that again, because I had my blindfold on, and I was just taking it off, check on the time and everything, make sure I was doing well. And there was nothing, and I was typing in the chat field, and that really threw me off. But anyway, glad to be here, and the architecture to me has always been fascinating when it comes to how does that play into the paranormal as well, anomalous things as well. Reflective surfaces, corners, curves and buildings, all these things, I imagine they probably have effects on things that we just haven't quite figured out yet. And of course there is folklore regarding all those things, but again, that's so far, that is folklore, from what I understand anyway. And again, my understanding is limited, so, but yeah, that's all I have for now.
And the same for me. Understanding limited, but as you learn more, you start to put pieces together. And don't forget, this show is about narratives. It's about like I talk about history as a narrative, and I talk about politics as a narrative, because everything we do is a narrative. Everything is storytelling in some degree, and even leaving details out that kind of push our agendas or our ideas, that would contradict the things we're saying. And that's what human conversation is. That's what human storytelling is. And that's why it's so powerful, because you can concoct a narrative out of disparate elements. And sometimes it makes a ton of sense. But don't forget, just because it might make a ton of sense doesn't make it real. Anyway, on to this. Now, so in the late 80s, Moody constructed the individual by the name of Raymond Moody. Okay. Super cool stuff. Like I said, I hadn't heard of this guy, and I think it's highly fascinating. But let me read this little blurb. We got Joe coming up in a second here. I see you, Joe. But okay, so in the late 1980s, Moody constructed a psychomanteum at his private research center, the John D. Memorial Theater of the Mind. I'll just pause there and let that ruminate. Yeah, his private research center was called the John D. Memorial Theater of the Mind. And this was in rural Alabama. He designed this as a modern adaptation of ancient Greek oracle practices for communing with the deceased. This dimly lit chamber featured a large mirror positioned for gazing, comfortable seating, and ambient elements like soft music and incense to induce a reflective state, allowing participants to potentially facilitate visionary encounters with departed loved ones through prolonged mirror meditation.
Moody conducted sessions there for over 2 decades, reporting that users often experienced apparitions or communications, though he emphasized the technique's subjective nature and its roots in historical divination methods rather than empirical proof. Okay, so there you go. There's our first WTF moment when I was reading this. The John D. Memorial Theater of the Mind. Because why not, right? Anything on that, James? I'm not sure if you caught that bit in the business here, but here we go, resurrecting John D. Maybe he steps through that mirror tonight. Or not. I'm not sure. James, we'll go to Joe in Florida. Yeah, we're having technical issues tonight, and it might be just me sneaking up on James. Let's do it. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Talking divination, because why not, right? Hey, nobody tells us what we can talk about. Joe in Florida, you're on Troubled Minds. How are you, brother? Go right ahead. Test 1, 2. Yep. James cut out again. Yep. Okay. Oh, yep. Okay. Not sure what's going on. Same thing with Joe in Florida. Oh my goodness. Are we having the gremlins? I didn't even invoke the gremlins tonight, and we're having this problem. Okay. Anyway, so Moody, again, Raymond Moody founded the Life After Life Institute in the 1980s to provide education, counseling, and resources on grief, dying, and afterlife experiences, marking his shift to full-time focus on NDE research and the near-death experience. And this is something he studied for a long time. And if you go back and read about this guy, he was highly interested in this and interviewed tons and tons of people, dozens or hundreds even, I think it's hundreds, where they had a near-death experience, and he was finding a lot of these similarities, right, that continue to happen. And it's really weird. The whole thing is really incredible because we shouldn't have similar experiences, right? Like our lives are connected, but also all these disparate elements of not just narratives, but in a larger context, experience. And so we shouldn't see the same thing in a near-death experience, but many ways, many times we do. And so what the hell does that mean? And, the easy way is to say, well, because our soul dips off into this particular place, and, it's like the crossing the threshold, the Bardo states, like we've talked about, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this type of stuff. And I'm not even saying that's not accurate. I'm saying it's an interesting element here that kind of makes you scratch your head and go, okay, so you're a materialist. Now explain that. And sometimes you can just say, well, it's a mechanism of the mind, and there's a light, and, stay away from the light, Carol Ann, or whatever, right? But also not, because it's complicated. And that's the entire point of all these conversations. They are complicated. But I don't know. What do you know? Is it about souls? Is it about something else? And that becomes the really weird part. Yeah, okay, no idea what's going on. Obviously, Discord's not working. That's okay. You're good. You're good, James. No problem at all. I think maybe, like I said, we have so many gremlins all the way around, so I don't know what the hell's happening. We do have a phone call here. Maybe it's Joe calling in on the thing because the Discord was a little messed up. One moment, please, and let's go to the phone lines. 702, what's the number? 957-6939, 857-6939. Let's go to, I think it's Joe. What's up? You're on Troubled Minds. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir. Coming through loud and clear. The phone line works, so that's good. If you want to jump on the phone line, James, and hang up. Go ahead.
It was weird. Like the minute I got the, do you accept? I clicked it. I didn't hear James. I didn't hear anything. And I know sometimes my USB ports can be a little wonky, but I don't know that I have too much to add, except the things that pop into my head are deprivation tanks. But the other thing that popped into my head with that is Edgar Casey. And if I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong, but I know that I try to do the same thing. And maybe you did it because you said you had some weird dream. We all do. But I think when Edgar Casey supposedly he would hold like ball bearings or marbles or something in his hand, and he would kind of start to fall asleep. I guess he would have those visions. And I think that if his arm went limp or something, I seem to remember that. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but the releasing of those balls, if he dropped them out of his hands, it would wake him up. And, I know that for me, when I go to bed, a lot of times my most vivid dreams is when I'm just drifting off, and then, of course, after 3 o'clock in the morning. But a lot of times it's when I'm drifting off, when I start to get like maybe the sleep twitch or the violent or the fighting. But getting back to the ancient stuff and the modern stuff, I kind of look at it as another version of a Ouija board, where the Ouija board focuses, if you believe in such things, first of all, disclaimer, but maybe juice. But if everybody's focusing their energy on the planchette and it starts to move, what are you getting? Again, is it a quantum signal, or is everybody pulling something in? And I would think that maybe these deprivation rooms and these chambers, or whatever they use, are maybe the same thing where you can't help but focus. I mean, we've all been there in pitch black room in the dark, and sometimes your mind starts to play tricks on you, right? So maybe you skip that part and you go into a place of joy. And if you're focusing on meeting somebody, but the weird thing is maybe you don't meet, like you stated in the beginning, maybe you don't meet the person you intend to. They just send somebody. And maybe they send somebody as an answer that it's going to be okay, right? Maybe out of desperation that you go and you're searching for somebody and it's going to be okay. I know that I've said it on the channel before that people die in the family. And some of the deaths recently on my wife's side were pretty traumatic. And after everybody went to bed and stuff, I had weird things happen. You know some of them. And other times I've gone out back and I've seen, the shooting star. Right at that moment when I'm out there looking at the universe and saying, why is this so terrible? And you get an answer. And maybe we all get an answer. Some of it's more specific than others. And maybe some of us don't even look for it or don't know that we're seeing things in death. I mentioned it plenty of times on the show, especially around Halloween, we do those things where I have these coincidences. And I don't know that people are directly looking for something, but just because that grief is so traumatic or so scarring, they may not realize that they're tapping into something and getting an answer, kind of like a poltergeist, if this all makes sense.
Makes sense to me. And that's once again, this is where this is kind of wobbly and really odd, is that, if you prep for a particular entity and somebody else comes, it's like the metaphysical curveball, like almost intentionally, like you're not allowed to kind of tune to a frequency and then draw that frequency through. You know what I mean? Almost as if like there's something blocking that. And I like to call those ideas deep magic from the dawn of time type stuff. But I mean, I don't know. Does anybody have experience with this stuff? Anybody done any kind of divination with, scrying with black mirrors, or the obsidian, of course? And look, the black mirror stuff, we talk about it as a cell phone. I mean, that this has been the modern parlance of these ideas and discussion, because we're all sort of worshiping these black mirrors, which are our phones, So, I mean, there's a ton there to get into. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I would think the other way to look at it would be this. If I specifically wanted to speak to somebody from the other side, but I got an answer from somebody else that was in my family, I think I would almost tend to believe that. In other words, if you tell yourself a lie enough times, it becomes the truth. So if I'm asking to see my dad enough times, but I see my uncle who's a little bit more lackier, I would tend to think that that's just proof that there's something else independent out there. You follow what I'm saying? So that I wouldn't doubt myself when I came to, if that makes sense in a certain way.
Yeah. Well, again, us playing tricks on ourselves with our minds. And I think there's a lot to that. Like once again, it may have spawned the entirety of, again, everybody settle down, but it may have spawned the entirety of religious thought. And the idea of the soul itself, sort of just the mind tricks that we play on ourselves. And then
commiserate with, like, oh, did you see a thing too in the mirror? I saw a thing too in the mirror. And then suddenly it creates a mythology of its own,
Well, exactly. But I mean, I was getting back to the divination stuff. There's a place in Florida called Casadega. And a friend of mine, well, he used to be a friend of mine, but anyway, I got up there and her father had passed away. And I don't know the whole story, but excuse me, she didn't ask for it, but she was like there with her mother, and there were other women there, and they were basically doing a seance. And some people came through for some other people, but the medium said, there's a gentleman out there that doesn't want to really come in. I think he was wearing a jacket, like she described him. And apparently it was her dad. And it's kind of funny because when we used to talk, well, her dad was alive. She'd make a comment. She'd be like, if my dad saw a bunch of women, he'd be like, time to get out. And in the, in the medium session or whatever, he was there. There's a bunch of women basically having a seance, and he was just like off to the corner. He was there, but he didn't really want to be seen. Again, if he believes such things. I know when I went, she gave me some accurate descriptions of my future, but what was kind of funny was she didn't reach out to anybody in my family. Like, she didn't say there was anybody, like I didn't have an interaction with a family member. She was just telling me what she saw. But what was really weird was that I had DJ'd the night before, gotten like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, not even, and then we took off to Orlando, up to the place. And one of the things she said was, I see you in entertainment. And I didn't really, it didn't hit on me when she said entertainment. I was thinking like TV show or, am I going to be on the radio? And then like a couple hours later, because I was, probably tired. I was like, oh yeah, well, I just got back from DJing and that's kind of entertainment, But then my cousin, my wife's cousin, saw a friend, I believe, a friend that she grew up with that had died. And the woman told her, and these were all girls, she said, you like playing with Star Wars? And she mentioned a horse on the wall. And like, that was totally out of the blue, right? So you could say mediums could do this and do that, but this was my wife's cousin who was visiting here from Missouri. This medium had no idea this person's background and was basically saying these things about a friend of hers that had passed away when they were young. Those are the ones where you're like, there's something else going on. There's something else just kind of going on here.
Yeah, and the funny part, real quick, just the funny part about that is that you can look at Raymond Moody or Dr. Ian Stevenson and some of these other people that are highly educated, and the appeal to authority works on trust the scientists and educated people, but the appeal to authority doesn't work when they disagree with their narratives, right? Which is pseudoscience. It gets labeled, and look, I'm not the arbiter of that truth in the larger context of the universe. So when I hear the term pseudoscience, I'm like, tell me more. Like, I want to know why and what kind of theories they had, like Rupert Sheldrake and morphic resonance. Like they call these guys pseudoscientists, but I think they're tapping into something that we will discover. And maybe it's not exactly as we see it, but it is funny how these narratives do play out in terms of human discourse.
When you say discover, it kind of creeps me out because I think I like the shroud of that mystery still. And maybe we'll never discover it, but if we do discover it, maybe it'll be a false god like we see with AI, right? Maybe, and I think you said you watched Mrs. Davis. I don't know if you watched American Gods, but those belief systems become, like we just said, the scrying mirror, the phone, right? AI deepfakes that we've seen from political leaders that may or may not have been blasted in the last couple of weeks. Right? But people after death, and we all know this, and I'm not, and especially me, see it, but we all see it. But the job that I do, we know that. Everybody here knows that. But there are people that go through traumatic grief. And maybe it's so traumatic they don't get an answer from the light or the void or whatever you want to call it. Now, when it comes to the pseudoscience, if I had to make a guess, I would say, do we know there's other dimensions? Certainly we do. We do know that there's other dimensions. Again, I've said it before, we've all said it. They really can't find conscience in the brain. So, you know, are we a tethered antenna? Am I a walking fancy antenna? And then proof of that is, again, a show that you've had are people that maybe have concussions or amnesia, and they come back with maybe a different personality inside of them, or they speak a different language. All of those things come from somewhere. Right? Now, maybe getting back to, because it keeps popping in my head, when you say tapping into things, what is kind of maybe scary, but also could be fun, if we were able to tap into it, would be like the Matrix, where Neo needs to fly that helicopter and Tank downloads a program or whatever. They download it, and the download's instantaneous, and now he has all that experience. But then, what fun would that be?
Yeah, I like what you said about the, you're creeping me out talking about discovery, because I think the shroud is important. It is, sort of a divisionary aspect of who we are and where we came from and where we're heading. So, I mean, if that's the clarity is too certain, I think that we have problems being people anymore, because then there is no ambiguity.
Well, and then think about it like this too. We all end up having to use science fiction tropes at some point in time. I try not to. You want to have some original thinking or ideas like you do for your shows. You have an original thought. We discussed something tonight, which is pretty good, that I've never heard of. So that's really, interesting. I don't think a lot of us have ever heard of this. But when we look at it, I'll give you an example of Star Trek and the Kelvin timeline. Old Spock tells new Spock, look, man, I can't really tell you that, but, we don't want to break the timeline. It's almost the same thing. I mean, if we knew the answers, what fun is the game? Robert, if Robert's listening, Robert is notorious for calling in and saying that, there's a stadium of people watching us. Down here, we're petty players on a stage. So the thing that I can't wrap my head around is that time is, they say time is just a construct for us. Maybe I'm going out on a limb and saying time exists, it's just experienced differently. So reincarnation, like in other words, if my first girlfriend had passed away, which she was like 21, I must have been like 20. I had a couple of dreams about her, but I don't anymore, right? I don't have any dreams about her. Doesn't mean that she's not there in another existence, but maybe she came back reincarnated. I'll never meet her again. Maybe she's back here again. I don't know. And that gets into, are we in a matrix? Are we in a simulation at some point in time? And did a creator make that? And are we running patterns? But we're all infinite. We're all different. Although I start to see some channels of people that, when we say that our leader now looks like General Patton, and there's other people out there that believe that there are vampires that walk among us because they look the same, right? And we've seen that. A lot of things that really weirded out that don't have answers, and maybe they're not meant to be. Maybe the universe, as it was created, was meant to be messy, and maybe physics, as we know them, we know them, but maybe there's places that they don't make sense, or it's still so chaotic that there hasn't been order. And that's the bigger argument in the universe, chaos and order. Has order, and it's kind of actually, it's funny, I wish I rewinded it. I just started, which I'll recommend to other people, but I didn't realize that KLF has a documentary that came out in 23. I started watching the KLF documentary today, and there's a section in there where they had a debate about, was the universe always chaotic, and did somebody want to push order onto it? Right? I'll probably have to rewind that part when I finish watching the movie, probably over the weekend. But again, chaos and order. And maybe there is a lot of chaos out there, and maybe those souls or that energy is out there somewhere in that chaos. And physics don't make sense. It is pseudoscience because order hasn't, I guess, order has not taken that over yet. It's just one of my little, I want to know when maybe these things right now, I can think about. So.
Well said. Well said. I appreciate the input and your expertise. Again, this is right down your alley with the subject matter of the work you do. Thanks for being a good friend for a long time. Thanks for bringing amazing and wild ideas. And thanks for the call. Appreciate you very much. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
You too. Joe in Florida. You know him, you love him. Good friend for a long time. A funeral director by trade. And again, very, very dialed into this type of stuff because he sees it. I don't know. The Psychomanteum. Do you think it's possible to build a temple where the dead come through? This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. Do not go anywhere.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
Let's check the news. A new study published in the journal Cell suggests the human body doesn't age at a steady, gradual pace, it accelerates. Researchers from the Chinese Academy of Sciences analyzed protein changes across 13 tissue types and identified a clear turning point around age 50. After which organ and tissue decline moves at a markedly steeper rate. Among the most vulnerable systems, the blood vessels, which the study found age early and are particularly susceptible to deterioration. The findings open the door to what researchers are calling a systems-level understanding of human aging through the lens of proteins. Turning now to a question that has long fascinated anthropologists: how did one species come to inhabit nearly every corner of the Earth? A study out of Arizona State University argues the answer lies not in our genes, but in our culture. Evolutionary anthropologist Charles Perrow calculated that humans occupy roughly 51 million square miles of land, compared to a typical wild mammal species range of about 64 square miles. His conclusion: cultural transmission, the rapid spread of tools, knowledge, and social norms, effectively compressed what would otherwise require around 88 million years of biological diversification into a few 100,000 years of human history. And finally, a sweeping new analysis is casting serious doubt on one of the more ambitious ideas in climate science. Researchers reviewing 5 leading proposals designed to protect Arctic and Antarctic ice found that not one of them cleared basic tests of practicality, cost, or safety. Among the concepts examined, scattering reflective particles in the upper atmosphere, a strategy that fails entirely during polar winters, and hanging underwater curtains to block warm water from reaching ice shelves, with projected costs already exceeding $80 billion for a single installation. The review's authors warn that several of these interventions carry the risk of causing serious environmental disruption far beyond the polar regions they were designed to protect. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Just a still little bit too robot-y for me. Yeah, that fascinating science on the climate, right? Like the conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, conspiracy theorists have been saying it for years. Like, are you serious? You're going to put particulates in the sky to block out the sun, and this is going to save us? Like, it's literally the most academic stupid thing you could ever consider. And now they're like, well, I think it might be a bad idea. It's going to be not cost effective, it's going to be unpredictable, and it might cause more problems than it solves. yeah no crap. That's what again, good old-fashioned Hobbit common sense has a lot to say about these things, and I wonder if anybody's actually listening. That's the problem. Yes, hope everybody's well tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the great call there, Joe. Thanks again to James. I know James is frustrated right now because his I'm not sure if it's the internet or it's Discord. People on Discord are saying it's cutting in and out. I don't know what's causing this stuff. It's once again maybe the gremlins have been invoked. But yeah, thanks again for the great ideas in the chat. Thanks for being nice to each other. All the stuff. What's up, Herschel, Matsell? We got Gaston, Apoc. I see you there. What's up, Lily, Joey? We got Joe in Florida. Thanks for the call. Flip Dizzy, Sylvain, Molly, and Satya. I see you. Yeah. Fred says, isn't that what the Anunnaki wanted gold for? Yeah, right. Because they blocked out their own sun or whatever, and then they had to save the atmosphere of their planet or something. I mean, we might be taking some creative liberties there, but I think kinda. I think kind of. What's up, Fred? What's up, guys? What's up? Jen is here. Good evening. Great stuff from Jen in the chat. What is up? Let's see. It says the most important thing about scrying is not to have anything about yourself that you hide from yourself because it will appear there in your way. Very Luke Skywalker in the tree, right? Like, you take your weapons with you, and Darth Vader's there to confront you. Yeah. What's up? We got Ricky and Puff over there on Rumble. The Rumble crew seems to have found other things to do. So nice and clear pastures over there if anybody wants to come chat at Rumble. Hope you guys are well tonight. And I don't know. Just wild ideas by Dark of Night. And the Psychomanteum is something new to me. I hope it's new to you. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening right about now. I think now is as good as any. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, which you can find at KUAPDB.com. There you go. This nice, lovely site has the people up there. You can play the thing right on the thing. Go check it out. I'm working very hard on getting us up to snuff so we can sell to real radio. And of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. That's terrestrial radio. Tonight, we're talking scrying, but not just your grandfather's or your grandmother's scrying. This goes back thousands of years. We're talking about this entity known as the Psychomanteum. Now, there's a lot of weirdness to this story here, including, of course, when the Romans found it. As far as I can tell, as far as the things I've read, actually, let me just read this thing because it's probably better. And yeah, let's do that instead of me rambling through this from what I kind of remember. Check it out. So in the 16th century, John Dee, a famed English mathematician, astronomer, and astrologer, used an Aztec mirror to make contact with the dead. Dee studied alchemy and divination while straddling the worlds of science and magic, and made extensive use of his mirror while pursuing his occult interests. He was also the official scryer or crystal gazer for Queen Elizabeth I. And we did this, a whole show on this, John Dee, Elizabeth I, summoning in the British Empire. There was a playwright that was sacrificed in the Omphalos of. Anyway, it's in the podcast feed. Go check it out. It was a fantastic show. I had to go brush up on my British history because I didn't, 1776. But American history is one thing, but and I'm very familiar. However, across the pond, things are different, and the monarchy and all this other stuff. But anyway, it was a fantastic show. Do go check it out. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, so John Dee, Queen Elizabeth I, ritual magic summoning in the British Empire. Now, so in this case, no doubt Dee was knowledgeable about the Greeks' use of psychomanteum, or mirror gazing, that added to his fascination with the Aztec mirror. Among the ancient Greeks, mirror gazing was a well-known means of reaching out to ancestors for guidance. This method frequently involved the use of dimly lit, isolated room with a mirror or reflective surface, such as a pool of water. And this becomes the weirdness, okay? That when you start to layer on these ideas, everybody was doing this. Everybody was trying to find some way, maybe not to walk through the portal, maybe not to walk into that sacred space of whatever's through that veil, but being able to peer into it somehow, being able to communicate with the, ancestors, the ancestral spirit, or passed on loved ones in this life that you knew, that type of thing. And like I said, the reflection aspect is spooky. There's a lot of, sort of ritual magic that involves mirrors and candles and, dark rooms and things like this, which I don't practice, by the way. And I'm not sure you should either, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to, one way or the other, tell you, go do this or go, don't do that. But it certainly has that effect of shadows and darkness and, reflections kind of playing tricks with our mind. As Joe said, great call from Joe. Appreciate that. And what is happening here? It seems as if we, in our primordial soul, we recognize as humans that there is some sort of veil. We recognize there is a metaphysical aspect between that seen and the unseen realm, and maybe even a passageway. If we can't get there directly, then we can certainly contact it. I don't know. Discord has the hiccups. Still sounds good as of now. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I don't know. I can't fix all the technology all the time. Some things run on Amazon web servers and stuff. Anyway, so So now the Oracle of Delphi we all know about, okay, where the ancient Greeks journeyed to hear prophecies from a priestess serving as the oracle, okay? Talked about this ad nauseum in the past. Lesser known is this Oracle of the Dead, a site in northwest Greece that pilgrims visited to contact the dead and learn of their future, which is known as the actual ancient term for this. It's not that, it's this. It's not that either. Well, where's my damn links? Too many links. One moment, please. It's called this. The Necromanteion of Acheron. Okay, so here it is. So, also known as the Oracle of the Dead, was an ancient Greek temple dedicated to the chthonic deities Hades and Persephone, functioning as a sanctuary for necromancy where pilgrims sought prophecies from the souls of the deceased. Located near the confluence of the Acheron and Cocytus rivers on the northwestern shore of the Archerusian, am I saying that right, lake in Epirus, northwest Greece, pardon my Greek. The site was mythologically regarded as one of the entrances to the underworld. And that's the wild part, is that they built this space where people would come on pilgrimage to actually contact the dead, right? Through this ritual space. And again, like I said, all the links are in the description. I encourage you to read up on this if you think it's worthy of kind of chasing down. And I thought it was because, like I said, I know a lot about the old stuff. Like I said, trace back, I've read a ton of stuff, even when I was little, about all this wild stuff, which led me to Dungeons and Dragons and why I love that. And, all this, I mean, it's written in history now. But you get what I'm saying in regard with this. You find something new and you're like, okay, holy crap, what is this? And what's going on? So not just the Oracle at Delphi, this Necromanteion of Acheron, where it was a little ritual space. And there was apparently like a polished cauldron that you would go into. You would do fasting rituals. You would do, sensory deprivation. You would do all kinds of stuff. And then you would descend into this space that had maybe a gate, maybe a couple hallways, maybe some ritual smoke going on. And you would go in there with this mirror. In that case, it was a polished cauldron of brass. And you would try and contact the dead. And you would come from all corners of Greece or wherever beyond to find the answers you were looking for. And recognize as people what we do with that and how we do it. We're always looking for answers, okay? Whether it's answers here or answers from elsewhere. And you know what I mean, beyond the veil. Because, of course, we're always in two places at once, even metaphorically, if you want to look at it that way. Otherwise, I think, even scientifically, I think with quantum consciousness, you could suggest we are in the physical space, but we're also tied into the larger consciousness of the universe itself. And so that would be two places at once. So, scientifically, like I said, if you buy into Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose, their theory of OR, shout out Eric in Ohio for teaching me that term. I didn't know what it was. I always called it quantum consciousness. But you get the idea. There are two places at once going on. And more than that, surely, because we're complicated entities. But anyway, so back to this. Now, so excavations conducted by the Archaeological Society at Athens between 1958 and 64, and then again in 76 and 77, led by this Dakaris guy, Sotiris Dakaris, sorry for my Greek, uncovered the site's main structures dating to the early Hellenistic period from the late 4th to early 3rd century BCE, including a fortified rectangular building with an underground crypt, annexes, a courtyard, and ritual rooms which operated until its destruction by fire following the Roman conquest of Epirus in 167 BCE. Now, this is where this gets further fascinating. Archaeological evidence reveals earlier layers of occupation, such as Mycenaean children's graves from the 14th to 13th centuries BCE, and a 7th century BCE sanctuary to an earth goddess with pottery and terracotta figurines, indicating the site's long association with chthonic cults. Later, a Roman settlement emerged in the 1st century CE, and the ruins were partially built over an 18th century convent. Very much a holy site. Recognize some of these ritual spaces are not just ancient ritual spaces. They tend to, and again, the convergence of these rivers, shout out Rivers, our friend there, is the convergence of these rivers seem to be these mystical spots. And in this particular case, we have this weird happening of the pilgrimage to visit the dead, to get answers, to get information from beyond the veil. Now it's weird, right? But then again, so the plot thickens, not just when we have John Dee involved, Elizabeth I, that whole business. But then this guy named Raymond Moody, once again, who called, what was this thing called? Something John D. something or other. I'll find it in a sec. But look, this is too weird. Like, the more I was digging into this and reading about this, the more I was like, wait a minute, hold on here. Like, I get it that we draw on the past to name things now. Okay, the Apollo missions, things like this. Like, I get it. But also, I mean, we have the whole alphabet and we have our imaginations. We can make up new things, right? It's just strange that we always kind of go back to these old spaces and, invoke John D. Who was it? Blake Lemoine, that actual Google engineer that said he had invoked John D through an AI system, the original proto-Gemini of the AI space that we know now. Once again, Gemini, right? It's not a new term. This is a term that goes back thousands of years. The twins. But in this case, Blake Lemoine said that he was talking to John D, the essence of John D, through a proto-Gemini AI system, and he said it was sentient. He said it was real. And he sounded the alarm way back when, before anybody even knew what a large language model was. You see, I don't know, there's a lot kind of in motion as usual, and when you kind of pick out these parts to build a narrative. Remember? This show's about narratives and recognizing them around us. But also, I think there's so much historically that we talk about and we think about that you can't just erase everything because it's from the past. It's easy to do. It's easy to just kind of write things off as, these stupid people didn't know anything about science, 2,000 years ago. I mean, they knew some, certainly. There's some things that we still haven't figured out how they did things. So I don't know, kind of writing off the ingenuity of our ancestors, to me, seems foolhardy. Anyway, back to this. So this is, again, Raymond Moody. So he built one of these things, okay, based on contacting entities on the other side. And let's see, where is this thing? I think I marked it. So, but it's so big. Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, it was the John D. Memorial Theater of the Mind. Mm-hmm. Right. We got some weirdness happening here of invoking the old ways, the old entities, the ritual masters of old or something. I don't know. But anyway, so he founded this Moody guy, Raymond Moody, founded the Life After Life Institute in the 1980s to provide education, counseling, and resources on grief, dying, and the afterlife, because he'd done a ton of work on it, on near-death experiences. And how about this? Has anybody out there had a near-death experience? I know we have some that have called in and talked about this in the past, but what do you think is happening there? Are we sort of 1 foot here and 1 foot there? Do we really rise out of our body in this particular case? And once again, why? I don't know. But and think of it this way too. In the modern sense, we're a materialist society. We're not supposed to believe in ghosts and spooks and spirits and things that go bump in the night. And typically, I consider myself a man of science, even though I'm doing a ghost show by dark of night or whatever, paranormal show by dark of night. But if there was a room that was built where you could actually talk to the dead, would you do it? Would you walk into this ritual space and scry through the old ways? Would you have the heart to do that? The fortitude to step into the unknown, even if it was a trick of the mind? And that becomes these narratives, these built narratives that make you scratch your head, at least make me scratch my head and wonder what the hell's really happening out there. Anyway, so Moody, fascinatingly enough, expanding beyond near-death experiences, he delved into past life regression. Because one thing usually leads to another, right? This happened in the 90s, employing hypnotic techniques to explore memories of previous incarnations as potential evidence of consciousness persistence. During a personal session with regression specialist Diana Denholm, Moody claimed to recall 9 distinct past lives in a deep trance, including 2 from ancient Rome. One as a philosopher and another as a soldier, and others in prehistoric or primitive settings, describing the visions of vividly nostalgic and logically coherent, distinct from ordinary dreaming. Is this all possible? I'm going to give it a good solid maybe, per usual. drinking the maybe juice, as we say when we talk about these things on this show. But it's weird when you find one new thing, it leads to 20 different rabbit holes that kind of really come out and make you go, wait now. We've been doing this for thousands of years, and then we got guys that did science on this as late as the 90s in this particular space. And this individual, once again, Raymond Moody, is credited with the modern term near-death experience. Very much like, as I stated earlier, Dr. Ian Stevenson, that did that reincarnation aspect of children coming back with memories that they shouldn't have, of places they've never been, with a scar in a particular place that seemed to match the story they were telling about their untimely demise. I don't know. What do you guys believe on this stuff? And that becomes the question, right? Is it a question of belief? Because personally, I say, and I've always said, and I'll continue to say, that the world itself, or let's say the universe itself, doesn't give a crap what I believe. What was it? Neil deGrasse Tyson said something to the effect of, and one of the things I agree with this man, he's like a flamboyant whatever. I'll stop before I get myself in trouble here. He annoys me because he won't go certain places with theoretical thoughts. But he said something to the effect of that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And I couldn't agree more. And so notice you can do that from an astrophysicist educated space, but you can also do that from a knucklehead space like me. And I know I'm just being facetious and making fun, but you get what I'm saying here. You can still say the universe doesn't give a crap what you think. It's going to do what it does, regardless of any of your belief systems at all. So I don't know. It is complicated. Like all this stuff is very complicated because, as usual, you can go back to the mind's eye and some of the things that we do or don't do as part of just living life as people. I don't know, modern rituals, religious or otherwise. It's all out there. For what? It feels as if it's a little deeper than just, we wave our arms and things change. Abracadabra, hocus pocus, right? Seems deeper than that. So, kind of being the guy that's in between these spaces or these ideas, it does make me wonder what the hell's actually going on. But the scrying aspect, and this one particular place in ancient Greece, where they had pilgrims come to talk to the dead, was recreated in the 90s by this Raymond Moody. Weird, right? If you had one of these, would you go in? Would you do it? Would you consider? I'm not sure I could, to be honest, because you know how things change you that you don't expect. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I talk a big game on the internet, right? But you're like, here it is, Mike. Here's the secrets of the universe. Here's the mysteries. Go get them. I might balk. I might slow down. Be like, what are we getting into here? Like, what is this? Like, what kind of mind space is being changed? Because like I said, our ancestors knew some things. As I suggested earlier, that we may rediscover. Jorge had his hand up for a second. I was going to go to him, but he put his hand back down. Let me know, Jorge, if you want to jump in here. Got 6 or 8 minutes left at the bottom of the hour if you want to jump in and give us a take here. But yeah, look, I don't know. As usual, one of the things, like I said, that fascinates me about learning sort of mystery stuff, not really mystery schools per se, but more about history, more about what the Romans did, more about what you pick it, you choose it. Like some of these other things, some of these old cults that don't get a lot of play. Like that's what brings me back. I want to learn about these things. I want to know about these things. I want to learn things that nobody else knows. And would I step into that space? Like I said, I don't know. I'm not sure I have that conviction, because I do recognize that we are malleable in our minds, in our hearts, and in our souls. And that's the part that makes me go, let's slow down. Let's take a breath here. Let's wait just a moment, because some things you enter into and it's changed forever. You're changed forever. So I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to be part of the conversation, do the thing. 702. What's the phone number? 857-6939. I'm still trying to port the other phone number over, but this guy's not talking to that guy. And there's a PIN number that's whatever. So many tech issues. I'm not going to bore you with the details. It's gruesome. If you guys knew how much tech tech stuff I did behind the scenes, you'd be like, Mike, why do you do this at all? Yeah. Not even talking the creative stuff, just fixing the things that break. Anyway, one more time, 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show. Let's do it this way. Let's go to Jen in Missouri. What's going on, the Arcane Observer? Thanks for popping in here and saving me. I saw your stuff about Obsidian in the chat. Very good stuff. Welcome to the thing. Long time no talk. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, yeah, the Obsidian bit is really interesting. It's I mean, the Neolithic technology is incredible. Obsidian is still used in surgical procedures. It can cut through a cell, unlike stainless steel scalpels just simply tear through a cell. But Obsidian will literally cut cleanly right through a cell, which is really incredible. I think that's amazing. And I've always thought that Neolithic technology had a lot to offer and still does. And that a lot of the technology we talk about, it seems so elusive. It's from that era of such a steep, incredible level of technology that we just aren't really in the age for. It's not really the time to be thinking about that, but we still use it. It's still one of the sharpest, cleanest surgical instruments is Obsidian. And then as far as, with communicating with the dead through scrying or through anything of the kind, I mean, I feel very cautious approaching this because I think that it's not necessarily all the time. You should be prepared that you're going to be speaking with the dead, but you should be prepared that that's not that you're speaking to the archetype behind, and it's a true type of intelligence. I would say that it's a human intelligence. It's a non-human intelligence. It's just an all-encompassing intelligence that is beyond us. And some people would call it even demonic, but that you are seeking, because there's a certain, I do hold certain beliefs that the doorway of death has to be somewhat finite to some degree, but that, when you die, it doesn't make sense for me that you would stay in the same realm exactly. That some part of yourself goes somewhere entirely different, that it appears that has to be the case. That doesn't mean that the ghost of you does. And that's separate. And even in Egyptian magic, they discuss that the skin of you, the flesh of your body, your bones and everything, that it has a soul unto itself, a spirit unto itself. And there's a whole process of how they deal with that in so many different cultures, and that it has a type of intelligence to itself for a certain amount of time. And then there's another aspect of you that is beyond. It's gone through the door. It's gone somewhere that cannot easily be reached and shouldn't be reached. Can contact with I guess you would call it the intelligence of the flesh that you were, in a way that has the memory of it. And so in that regard, but when doing something like scrying to the dead, in fact, I think that you are reaching out to something that could be encompassing and many people would say it's almost demonic or something now in our present world, they would think it was that. And it's hard to control that type of, when you would encounter it, because the human psyche encountering something like that, it's typically you have to, so it makes sense that they would go through all the processes that they did of trying to pull back all the layers of the person and work, because you could have some kind of mental schism where the person can't coalesce what they're communicating with and the impressions that are made upon themselves from their experience of encountering it. But with the scrying itself, typically it's not that you're necessarily staring at yourself into a mirror or anything. In fact, the idea is from what I've heard, is that you don't see yourself. The mirror should be positioned in such a way that you're not seeing your own reflection necessarily. That you're positioning it just so that you kind of see into the darkness in the mirror, and that you can see into that by the light of the candle.
Exactly.
Is how I've always heard it described.
Exactly.
And,
which is a Psychomanteum thing too, by the way. I don't know if you've ever heard of this or not, but that's exactly the ritual aspect of this, and it does go back at least a couple thousand years. We're just about out of time here. You're welcome to stay. I appreciate you jumping in here and saving my ass. Great stuff as always. You want to hang out, or you got to bounce? Up to you. You tell me.
No, I did feel drawn to talk about it, and I can hold over for a minute, but I don't know what else I can add.
Okay.
I'll hold on.
Okay. I appreciate you very much. Jen, the Arcane Observer. Go check out her channel. Check out, she's a co-host with James on the weekends on Salcedo Paranormal as well. Look, lots of great ideas, lots of great people as part of this for a very long time now. Appreciate the input, and hang tight. We'll get back to Jen in a moment. We're talking the Psychomanteum. Communing with the dead through ancient ritual. Does it creep you out or not? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. More with Jen and your calls as well. Do not go anywhere.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
At least my MIDI triggers are mostly working. That's fixed now. Here we go.
Let's check the news. Scientists in Germany have achieved something that until recently existed only in science fiction, successfully freezing and reviving brain tissue while preserving its ability to learn and form memories. Researchers at the University of Erlangen in Nuremberg used a technique called vitrification to flash freeze slices of mouse brain tissue in liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius, holding them there for up to a week. Upon thawing, the neurons still fired, connections between cells remained structurally intact, and the tissue showed the biological mechanism at the heart of learning and memory. The implications for cryonics, organ preservation, and yes, deep space travel, are difficult to overstate. Shifting to the cosmos, scientists analyzing samples returned from the asteroid known as Ryugu have confirmed the presence of all 5 core chemical building blocks that spell out the genetic code of DNA and RNA. The find, published in the journal Nature Astronomy, marks the second time a complete set of these building blocks has been recovered from an asteroid, following NASA's retrieval of identical molecules from the asteroid Bennu in 2023. Researchers are careful to note this does not mean life existed on Ryugu, but it does suggest that the raw ingredients for life may be far more common throughout the solar system than previously understood. The theory that Earth's biology may have been seeded from space continues to gain quiet, measurable momentum. And finally, new research is drawing a possible connection between psychosis and a breakdown in the brain's own waste disposal system. Scientists now suspect that when the brain's cellular cleanup mechanisms fail, allowing toxic byproducts to accumulate, it may contribute to the onset of psychotic disorders. The findings add a compelling new dimension to our understanding of mental illness, suggesting that what we once attributed purely to brain chemistry may have a structural, biological component hiding in plain sight. Thanks for listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network.
Hiding in plain sight. Imagine all the things that are exactly that. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Hope you guys are well tonight. Thanks, Jen, for popping in here. What's up, Herschel, Matsau, Gaston, Derek, the official llama of Troubled Minds, Llama's Fina. What's up, Joe? Thanks for the call. Flip Dizzy, APOC, Joey, Lily, Sylvain, and Jorge. I see you guys. Thanks for being cool and chill, hanging out. Thanks for enjoying the ideas and spending time and energy with us. Cubs Future over there on Rumble. I see you. Hello, good evening. If I missed anybody, just say hi and I'll say hi back. I see you, James. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. Ricky and in all the places. Here we go. Troubled Minds coming up in just a second here. And you know me, like when I find something interesting that I've never heard of, it's hard to synthesize it quickly because there's a ton to learn about it and there's so many rabbit holes. So you know, I'm just human doing my best here. But this is one that once again can be replicated. And this individual, Raymond Moody, did this. And so I'm wondering if I want to build one of these in my closet. You know what I'm saying? Oof, or maybe not. Anyway, here we go. Troubled Minds coming up now. More with Jen. Your calls as well. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. All the places, all the things, yada yada, troubledminds.org. Click the friends link, follow our friends. We're hanging out talking about the Psychomanteum tonight. I'm calling it a temple of engineered dread. Yeah. So here's the question. The question of the night is literally this. If you could build a sacred place where, without a doubt, you could contact ancestral spirits through the veil, would you build it? Would you go? Would you look into the scrying mirror itself, into the veil, through the veil? And like I said, I'm not sure I got the fortitude to do it, honestly. As much as I love the ideas, it scares the crap out of me because it can have changes in you. I mean, maybe that's the transformational part of it and why we should not be afraid. But I don't know. I've seen some hypnotism stuff that creeps me out. So you mess with people's brains. Anyway, yada yada. 702-857-6939. Back to Jen. Thanks for being patient. A ton of stuff here. And so if you got more, add it. If not, I got a question or two for you regarding this because I think it's wildly fascinating. Welcome back.
Well, happy to be here. There's a couple of things. The Furies, for example. In context with what I was saying, kind of what I kind of thought, that, the spirit of the flesh, like the spirit of the body that carried it all, that it can have a type of, it carried your life, that it's separate from this, the possibility that it's separate from this spark of will to live, that is the soul. That is, the memory of all the things that made you happy to be alive. That there's something to be said about what would be remaining, and it would be all the fear, all of the rage. It would be all the things. It could be, or the repetitive, the compulsive spirit of the flesh that's still existing. And the Furies, the idea about encountering them could, even just the form of the dead, could be literally encountering the decay and the force of the influences of that were remaining of them. And then beyond that, to be reaching further than that, and how dangerous that could be. First off, let's just say that it is, something to be reckoned with. To encounter simply that top surface like that, the spirit of that, and it'd be the first thing at the gate. And beyond that, to go past that gate, you'd be encountering what many people would describe as being demonic, which is actually leading you closer, and just kind of what I think, to this seed-like truth about the soul and coming in contact with that. But it would be more of like an archetype. What would be like, people consider it to be like a type of a daemon or an angel or something of that kind. It would be more closely related to what the soul actually was. And so they still carry the same, a lot of times, when you encounter the dead, they are not always, not in a negative way, but there is this negativity to be considered. The people.
Got a Discord hiccup? Are you there? Test 1, 2. Jen cut out. We're having more tech issues. I literally replaced my entire hub here, like powered hub, because the old one was dying, causing all kinds of ghost issues on my machine. I cleaned everything up, and now maybe Discord's having the problems tonight. Jen, are you there? Test 1, 2. I'll leave you there if you want to power through this and get past the hiccup, the internet hiccup, or whatever the hell's going on. You're welcome to. If you got a dip, I understand. Yeah. Welcome to Troubled Minds. The gremlins are out in full force.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Welcome back. I think you're in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. You cut out, and just want to give you a chance to wrap it up or not. Like I said, I hate when things break mid-sentence, and that's what happens. So sorry about that.
Oh, I don't know if it broke or not.
I couldn't hear you. So yeah, it definitely broke on this end. So sorry.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. That's okay. Not your fault. Not my fault. It just these things do happen. But yeah, fire stuff. Final question for you on this: if you could build one of these things that reliably would contact the other side, would you do it? Would you walk in there?
Yeah.
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 I love it. That's amazing. So maybe there's a formula. Again, this guy, Raymond Moody, built one, did tons of experiments with it, and supposedly was able to recreate the old ways. I don't know. I wonder.
I don't know. I don't know that you would expect. I don't know necessarily that the dead know anything that you don't already know. You know, so I really don't know about that. I don't know if the dead have privileged knowledge, but there are other entities that might. And even they can't tell the future. That's something, held back. So they say about like time and everything that is held back from mortals, like people who, from being able, those who can die. So it's held back from and you're in the flesh. So that's held back from you, so that you can complete what you're supposed to be doing, So there's that. I think that's interesting. And that's repeatedly said over and over and the dead can lie. And the dead are not always in well wishes for the living. And that is true. And many times people encounter the paranormal or even ghosts. It's not necessarily that even when they have a positive experiences, it's neutral and it's about themselves. It's about the ghost itself. 9 times out of 10. And it's not focused on the individual who's contacting them, except to want to live vicariously through them. And they're even in Eastern faiths, it's a hungry type of, there's a hunger in them to live again. And so there's a price, there's an exchange involved.
Well said. The greedy spirit archetype that wants its way back. I mean, that's again, like you said, goes back thousands of years in so many different cultures. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Life is beautiful and wonderful and fleeting, and so we get this much time in the sun and that much, like a massive amount, disproportionate amount of time in the void. It makes sense. You'd want to come back to the sun for a minute.
Well, that's why they're separated. The part of yourself does move off into the after entirely, but some of you does not. And many times when people are contacting the dead, they encounter that aspect, because otherwise you would say that death is a free swinging door, which would make everything pointless. It'd make existence and life, if it was a free swinging door, it would lose its significance. In a way. So, I don't know, but it's interesting. And I love this topic, and great show, Mike.
And fantastical. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for popping in here and saving my ass. And fire stuff as always. You're the best. That's Jen in Missouri, the Arcane Observer. Please go give her a follow on all the places. troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow Jen. Do that. And also follow, of course, Salcedo Paranormal. She's there with James doing that Slanted on the weekends as well. I'm tuning in as much as I can, and they are just absolutely killing it. Like I said, it's such a fascinating place to be here with all these smart people that can look at these things, these abstract ideas in different ways. What it's about. That's what it's all about. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for the call, Jen. Thanks for dipping in and saving me. And thanks for bringing, again, an element that didn't cross my mind, but I think is very, very pertinent to what we're talking about here tonight. We're talking the Psychomanteum, a temple of engineered dread, I'm calling this. So, he dreads for the clickbait or whatever. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of here. We're talking about channeling. We're talking about divination in some cases. We're talking about contacting entities through the veil. And as usual, I like to invoke belief. What do you believe? Fascinating as hell. 702-857-6939. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James in Michigan. Welcome back, brother. Thanks for jumping through some hoops. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And I'm sorry for dipping earlier. I probably could have tried to just go through it, but it just gets on my nerves when I just drop and then continuously drop over and over again. So, but no, this is a great topic. Great to hear from Jen as always. And yeah, I would highly recommend. Out of all my shows, I think my favorites are the ones where I have guests, and out of those, the favorites of those are the ones where Jen is able to join me. This was something that came up when you asked earlier about if you were to be able to build this kind of a room, this Psychomanteum, would you use it? I think, to me, what this all seems to come down to when it comes to that or Ouija boards or pendulums or any number of tools, that's what it is. It's a tool. And there are people that have devoted large parts of their lives to practicing and learning how to use those tools. And that's amazing to me, because they've gone through the positive and neutral and negative experiences in the process of learning those tools, how to use those tools, and becoming, turning them into careers, sort of, or professions, communicating through those tools. And so that is definitely a choice, but I don't think I want to make that choice myself personally.
Yeah.
I have enough to keep me busy as it is. I don't need to add that to the whole mix.
Yeah. It seems like unnecessary complications. Life is hard enough as it is without being like, well, now I'm entangled with the afterlife, so let's see what happens next. I mean, and I'm just being frivolous about it, but you get the idea. Like, I don't know, like it is a tool, but I'm not sure. Again, and so put this in your back pocket for another time. We'll circle back to this as part of the conversations. But if you could, not just build this thing or find a way to reliably actually do the things we described many times on this show, contact the other side or contact the Mycelium Network without drugs. Don't do the drugs, the meditation or whatever it is. Would you do it? And I think that becomes the highly fascinating part of, look, I don't know. Like I'm finally, I'm old, I got gray hair and stuff, and I'm just not as young as I used to be, but I find myself, let's call it, proud of the steps I've made to improve who I am. Okay. And so I do wonder if this type of stuff can maybe spin that off the rails. I don't know. Or maybe it accelerates it. I don't know. I think that's the scary part. Like I said, the dread here, I think, is the mental aspect, the actual neuroscience of these things and how they do affect you. Whether, once again, to the materialist, whether it's real or not, this stuff does. Like, you can say you're cursed. Okay. And like the materialist is like, whatever, it's just a stupid word. But then imagine, you have a weird nightmare, and then, the next thing comes, and then suddenly a bad thing happens, and then two bad things happen. You start believing in the curse, and you start manifesting the curse, even though you don't believe in curses at all. You see what I mean? I think there's this wiry, slippery slope of, once again, belief and disbelief that we find ourselves grappling with all the time. Go ahead, James. Sorry to ramble on, but I think it's a fascinating thing here.
No, and it's funny because you've been talking about belief and all that, and talking about what it means, and people have the different ones. In what I've been doing so far, just the research I do for my show, and just constantly looking for reports of experiences, I'm at the point now personally where I don't really know if I have any beliefs directly, just because I've come across so many varied experiences. Again, types of experiences, outcomes, positive, negative, neutral experiences. I'm not really sure what I would believe in at this point because of everything I've found. Everyone who does have belief systems that they follow, whether they're larger ones that are religions or not, their own personal ones, they all still have experiences. And so I don't really know what I believe at this point, personally, for myself, except that there are things that happen. Also, when I say that, one of the reasons why I wouldn't sort of want to try to learn how to or practice using all these tools is there are rare cases, and I do think it's rare overall, but there are rare cases where people do have that negative experience. And whatever it is that they do, they feel like they have had a string of negative experiences in everyday life after they used one of these tools. And so this is what I say. It's one thing if you decide you want to become proficient in using these things and devote your life to that. It's just like anything. It's probably like any career, any business. You're going to have positive and negative experiences in the course of doing it, of running it, of doing a certain job. But that one right there, for me, is just, I've had enough. I have enough things happen that are weird as it is here and there.
Exactly.
In regular life to, I don't need to be making more happen.
Yeah, to be asking for more, like going in the desert and summoning some UFOs or something. Like, I get you, and I 100% agree, because it's like I said, some of this stuff can mess with you, and that trickster aspect, like Jen was saying too. Like, it is well known historically in the metaphysical space that if you can contact the dead, whether you believe that's possible or not, they don't always tell the truth, and so. It's this stuff is complicated, and that's why, like I said, I love to wrap my mind around these ideas and talk about them and consider them. And I don't know what I believe either. So high five on that, James. We're on the same page, 100%. I appreciate you calling back in and dealing with the Discord. It seems like Discord is having massive problems tonight, so don't even trip. No big deal. Appreciate you again stepping up, calling back, helping me out. Salcedo Paranormal coming in clutch tonight. Not just James, but also Jen. Appreciate you guys very much. We got Derek behind you, so let's get to him. And thanks for the call, brother. We'll talk to you soon. You have a great night.
You as well. Can't wait to hear from Derek. And yeah, great call from Jen. Take care.
Absolutely. You're the best. You know me, love him. Salcedo Paranormal, James, the glue of the show, all the things. Real quick before we go to Derek, hilarious. Lamos Fina in the chat says, I'd kind of, if I could break this Psychomanteum down and put it up when I wanted to, I might do it. But if it was in a permanent fixture in my house, maybe not. And I'm like, like a drive-through. Can I get a large fries with no salt and then an ancestral spirit while I'm here? I mean, why not? 702-857-6939. I remember the number now because repetition is all the things. And where's the button? Is this the button?
You.
Derek in Massachusetts, what's up, brother? Thanks for popping in here. Discord's cranky tonight. Hey, at least we got the phone line back, so that's a nice backup. Welcome to the thing, man. This is a weird one. Have you ever heard of a Psychomanteum? And we're short on time. It's 7-ish minutes, as you know. What you got? Give us your best 7 minutes. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah. Great show. Hopefully the internet holds out and everything. I have not, but the idea of a polished cauldron kind of sounds like a sphere, or the sphere, like a giant dome, a giant obsidian shiny dome, when it's not on. And they had the Grateful Dead there, so I wonder if that's kind of some weird thing happening there. And then you mentioned the confluence of rivers, obviously that came up a couple of times. And just mirrors in general are interesting to me. Like the idea, like have you ever watched those videos when you
Perfect. Mirrors. Never watched those videos. We'll give it a second to come back. Yeah. It may actually be my internet because we're having so many problems. I don't know. But, yep. Don't ever watch those videos. Derek slaying it and then getting cut off. Jen slaying it, getting cut off. James slaying it, getting cut off. The only one who didn't actually was Joe. Joe's got some ritual magic going on in Florida. Derek in Massachusetts. Give it a second here.
Oh, no.
You're good. You're back. I can hear you. You said, do you ever watch those videos and it cut? Did you ever watch those videos and it cut? That was the moment. So if you
I try to watch the screen, and when I don't see any action on your screen or on my screen with like the green circle going, then I know I'm cut out, and it was still going. I thought I was still going. But have you ever seen the videos of the mirrors placed out in the wilderness, and the gorillas kind of staring at them and freaking out, not knowing what to make of them?
Yeah,
the animals and stuff.
Even attacking it, yeah.
Yeah, those are those are pretty cool to me. And so like the idea that humans recognize themselves in mirrors, like this doesn't really necessarily apply if the mirror magic is like what Jen said, where if you don't look at your reflection, which is new to me. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So I had these notes down before that was the case. But if it is involved in your self-reflection and all, the idea that humans recognize themselves in mirrors and animals don't is interesting. And I think in the future, we'll have better language to kind of describe this weird confluence of like external entities and internal entities. And when people talk about like the entities are like in your psyche or whatever, or like Jungian talking about these like trips like to the abyss and stuff, but having it be considered psychological and not actual entities. I think there's kind of both. I think there's like independent entities that live within the psyche, and it might manifest in like multiple personalities, or I think there might be an element of demons being these things and kind of being like let out of their cage, so to speak, and being able to tulpa around or whatever. And so kind of some kind of reflection magic, some kind of reflection can stare deeper into the psyche and kind of unlock these things. And I know in Dune, when the Bene Gesserit take the spice and do their ceremonies and stuff to try to talk to the dead, it's not external dead, it's all ancestral memories. So they try to get answers from their ancestral memories, but they're all sentient ancestral memories, and they try to like take over the people. So you have to be be trained and be careful, or else you become an abomination, which means you'll be taken over by one of your ancestors, basically. They're like lying dormant in this kind of dark abyss. And they talk about like, don't look at mirrors when you're on drugs because they'll kind of freak you out, and everything's kind of distorted. That you're kind of creating this weird other space, this weird other realm. And kind of if it does tie into the or if it is, you don't look at yourself, that's also interesting, because you're literally creating this zone. You're staring at this like corner of the room that isn't actually the corner of the room, and potentially that allows something to occupy this empty space. You're creating this Schrodinger's box out of nowhere, or some kind of like, you are just creating some kind of space that exists to you. Now you can see it, you can like interact with it to an extent, and it's just a simple process of that, like observer effect style, just allows for that, for something to pop into that like pocket realm that you just invented, you just created out of thin air. Does that make any sense? Yeah, no, I follow you. And it is very D&D, that the pocket dimension. It's a spell in D&D. And I do think, so think of it this way too, what you just described, a pocket dimension of your own inference of what this means doesn't necessarily mean it's the larger concept of reality, right? Like we may be doing these things to ourselves in sort of a tighter universal space. You know what I mean? So who knows? Yeah. And back to the void, the as Jen said too, this ritual is, you're not supposed to put the light into the mirror itself. The mirror is supposed to reflect the void. And so I don't know, like there's too much here that's just too creepy for me when it comes to where we came from, what we know now, and where we're headed in terms of what we may discover. Shout out to Joe in Florida. It's a wild thing, man. And there's a lot of rabbit holes that come out of this, which I'll circle back on, because like I said, I was learning a ton tonight, just reading. And the more you read, you're like, oh God, John D now. Here we go. If you're there, Derek in Massachusetts. Discord's being so stupid tonight. Yep. All right. Yeah, that's Derek. You know, we love him. Again, troubledminds.org/friends. Click the friends link. Thank you for jumping in here. Fire stuff as always. Scroll down. Very simple. Derek, the Night Stalker is, of course, his moniker there. Go follow his channel. Right there. Night Stalker. It's alphabetical. Go follow his YouTube channel. It's completely free. Look, as usual, you know me. And I know it's not very provocative. I need to show up and just crap on the Christians, right? And then you get a big audience. Or you show up and you crap on the Muslims and you get a big audience. You show up and you crap on the Scientologists and you get a big audience, right? Whatever, right? Look, I'm not trying to crap on anybody. I'm trying to consider what we know and what we don't know, and the juxtaposition of all those things from the ancient days to the modern days. That's it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Discord. Yeah, thank you again, Derek. Appreciate that very much. Fire stuff. And F you, Discord. I don't know what's going on. And here's the thing too, right? So there's the destabilization. There's the quote unquote war going on, and they're attacking data centers and stuff to kind of disrupt the West. They're literally shutting down the strait, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening right now. So that asymmetrical warfare might be in play.
I mean, they were literally attacking Amazon data centers. So who knows what the hell's going on? I couldn't begin to guess other than something like that, or bad luck, good old fashioned bad luck. Yeah. Can we just stop the world over? Can we just stop killing each other, please? Can we just stop this? It's crazy. You guys are the best. Thanks again for dealing with me, the Rambleosaurus Rex. Thanks for dealing with the tech issues, and thanks for jumping in and saving my ass. Look, this is, like I said, this is highly fascinating to me, and I could do layers and layers and layers off of this, which I will. I've got notes on this now that I can kind of follow up on. But if you want the entire thing, once again, join the Troubled Minds newsletter. It's free. It's free to follow, 100%. If it pops up and says, "Do you want to contribute $150?" Just say no. It's like a thing, like it might scare people off, but Substack is free. So literally just click the thing, you go to the Substack, and you get all the stuff. So about an hour before the show, 45 minutes before the show, I put up the entire write-up. So if you want to catch up and then kind of know a thing or two about what we're going to talk about, it's all there. So kind of prep yourself if you want to call in, or if you're interested or not interested, that's cool. But it's free. Go check it out. So if the pop-up says pay $150, just say no. Click the thing. You don't have to pay anything. So anyway, there's a lot here. And as usual, a lot of these ideas are circular. And it's good. I think it's good. I think we have a hard time letting go of the past, and I think that's a very human thing. But also, when you're talking about the ancient past, can we ever really let it go? Because it's built into our DNA. It's built into who we are. It's built into where we came from. That's it. So yeah. See? Hey, look, I can still ramble, guys. I can still ramble in small doses, meaningful ways. Whatever. You take what you take it or leave it. Whatever. That's it. That's Troubled Minds, right? I show up flawed and wrong about everything, and let's talk about it. That's it. That's it. So ask yourself the question: if you had a mirror that could reliably contact the other side, would you invoke said mirror? It's an interesting question. I like how I'm like, no. And Jen's like, yes. There you go. There you go. Shout out, Jen. Yes. Would you? Fascinating. Look, I don't know. What I do know is we are blessed to have so many amazing people that are part of this. From all the way back to shout out Kelly in the chat. He was in the chat earlier. The first caller that ever called and called back. And then Joe. Literally, we're talking 8 years ago now. Like these guys have been friends for that long. It's crazy. And many of you have for years and years and years as well. Thank you for that. But recognize we're smart, but we're a different kind of smart. Maybe too smart. Too clever by half, I'll call myself. But look, I don't care about that mainstream stuff. I don't care about their narratives. Like, you could spin off of that all day, every day, and do quasi-political stuff and act like you're doing novel shit. Whatever. I'd rather talk about whatever the hell we found out tonight. In any case, if you want to help us help our friends, troubledminds.org/friends. Very simple. Many of the 95% of that stuff is free. Once again, just like the Troubled Minds Substack, if a paywall pops up, say no. Just join it. It's fine. Or if you want to pay $150, cool. I appreciate that. Some of you have, by the way. Thank you for that. But here's the thing. 95% of our friends, the stuff they're doing over there is free. Follow on YouTube, follow on X. If you don't have accounts, make accounts. This is the deal. Like I said, we're in this together, one way or the other, right? So that's that. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening, but we're not going to chase down political narratives. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure it matters anymore. I'm so post-political. I'm so over all of it that the monsters rule the world and it sucks. That's just the way I see it now. But it doesn't mean we have to wallow in their misery. There are things worth living for and ideas worth considering. That's it. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Also, troubledfans.com. You can buy the merch, the hats, and the stuff, and all the things. Look, I don't make a living on this, as you guys know. I work a day job and then come home and try and put this all together. So, yada yada, blah blah blah. That's it. Appreciate you guys very much. Shout out Lily in Australia. Welcome back. Glad to have you here. Sorry, Discord was a disaster tonight. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. And this one goes out to Lily in Australia. Welcome back. Glad to see you in the chat. Glad to see you in the Discord. For Lily. Be sure. Be strong. Be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.